I wanted to do a chat about friendship and also in regards to friendship with living with CPTSD and some of the challenges that you might face, and also some of the challenges that may have been set upon you to even have friends in the first place. When I look back to my past, I have a history where I've always been told, Dion, you need to make more friends. Always more friends. It's like there was no really subjective number of how many of more there was to have, but I was needing to have more friends. And this was told to me by the ex-partner and also family. I was told that I always needed to make more friends because I was by myself all the time, and like I just wasn't interacting in a social environment. I think there is two parts to that we could look at. First off, where the telling of me to have more friends in some ways was me being told I need to get out of the house, I need to go out, I need to get away from the people like the ex-partner, the family and all that, because I was too much in their presence all the time. So it was becoming bothersome that I was around, so therefore I needed to get out and interact with other people. There was also the part where it's like, where I was told to have more friends became almost like a form of failure or punishment, that if I didn't have more friends, then I was, if I didn't have more, I was less sort of mindset, and that there was something wrong with me, that I wasn't making more friends or having this big social entertaining party. And I think in some ways it's kind of a narrow-sided view, is not sort of seeing that the reason that I'm isolating is because of the environment around me, where it feels like I, once again, have been told that I have no confidence. I'm being basically, the self-worth is being depleted by those people telling me to go out and have more of a social environment where I need to engage these social skills of being confident to talk to other people, of being able to interact, where it's like in that internal environment, it was never mirrored to me. It was never brought up where it was like, you know, this is how you go out and do it. It was more of a form of, if you don't do it, you're a failure sort of thing, or you're a failure because you don't have some of friends. And I want to explore that a bit more, because the environment that I was within didn't really foster great social skills in the sense of confidence, self-worth, these sorts of things that, you know, when someone sees you, if they see that sort of insecure person, or they see that person that is struggling to maintain like conversations and all that, then their view of this person, it's like, well, how can I be friends with this person? It's like, what's wrong with them sort of thing. And what's wrong with them is sometimes in relation to what they're being brought up in, because we learn from our environment. The other part is, it's kind of just damned if you do, damned if you don't. So when you do actually start to do as prescribed, to start form relationships, start form friendships, it's seen as, well, now my source of supply is now gone somewhere else. Now I'm by myself. Once I've told this person to go out, now I'm by myself. And it's like, what are they up to? It's like all the demons start to play in their head of like all these scenarios of where I'm out doing my worst sort of thing, where you do actually start to form friendships or some form of relationships, or even friendships with the friends of like the parents or of the ex-partner. And because those people relate well to you, because it's like you start to come into your own, that can be seen as jealousy. Then the arguments later on about, you know, oh, you're having somehow having an affair with them, or you're like, you got all these like wrong intentions, or texting while you're like out with your friends, like what are you up to sort of thing. So it becomes almost a form of punishment to actually have friendships. So you're always on guard, and it's very hard to be social and interactive when you're always on guard. So it can actually be quite hard for a trauma survivor to, one, be forming a connection with themselves, to reconnect with their own body, with their own mind, and how they identify with themselves, and being able to connect with their own self-worth, have values, have their own source of identity, or also retraining themselves from the environment that said that they were worthless, that said that they should always be in service of them. So it's a twofold approach where you're having to relearn and also reconnect not only with yourself but with others, which it's not easy. And simply saying that you need to make more friends is on par with saying to someone with depression that you just need to be more happy. And sometimes, even if you've not suffered a lot of trauma, just simply growing up into older age, what was more starts to become less, and it's actually hard to actually maintain more friends. Some people can do it, but sometimes it's like there's a lot more things to actually deal with, to interact with. And with any form of communication, it's a back and forth. It's like tossing a ball with a conversation. One person has their say, they toss it back to you, back and forth sort of thing. And some people just like to keep tossing that ball. It's a one-sided game sort of thing. It's like they just want to unload onto you all the time, which becomes, once again, very draining to deal with. There's always going to be a relationship between myself and my environment, my relationship between someone else and how they relate to me. And there's good relationships and there's bad relationships. There's one-sided relationships where it becomes draining. And there's also relationships where it drains your self-worth, and you have to go on a journey to actually start to say that, I do deserve more, and all these sorts of affirmations that affirm that who you are as a person is actually of worth. That said, it is important to form connections with others. And I think there's also the difference between forming friendships and forming acquaintances, as in there's people that know me, but there's not people that are there for me. And I probably share a lot of acquaintances. It's like I share history with people, but once again, friendship is like they're on board with you. They're wanting to ride those waves with you. They can't be there all the time, but they are there for you. And then there's people that just know of you, and if you're going for a hard time, you might get a thumbs up sort of thing on social media. But apart from that, they just know of you, but they're not there for you. I've also been told, well, everyone's dealing with their own stuff, Dion. Everyone's got their own problems and that, which is true. I've got my own problems. I've got C-PTSD to deal with, but it doesn't stop me from wanting to lend a hand or to be caring in some way or have a comforting word. But I think that starts to withdraw a lot less with me when, once again, the game becomes one-sided. In some ways, it's kind of like having that statement of, we've all got our own stuff. Well, yes, but many hands make light work. But I think if we get into like limerence, like loving the idea of a person rather than the actual person being in love with you or an actual connection, sometimes we can either form into a form of limerence or a form of like reminiscence of what friendships used to be or what we desire our friendships to be, like somewhat of the movie things where they're calling you on the phone and you're having these long chats and you're calling the finger through the cord sort of thing. It's that form of like romanticized ideal of what friendships are. And sometimes people will go for their own stuff and have to deal with that sort of thing, and they can't deal with everyone at that time. And it doesn't mean that you as a person is anything less. It's just that they've got to deal with their issues. But there's also that point where it's like what we want and what we desire is probably going to be different to the actual reality of what the person's capacity to deal with problems that are your own problems sort of thing, and their ability to understand to be somewhat your ideal of confidant, that they're not always going to be in that headspace. They're not there to be that psychologist for you. They're there to be the friend for you. And they're also there to be that person that probably challenges you and sort of says, well, this is probably not the in your best interests. But to view them as that savior role, or to put them on the dais sort of thing of how they should be worshipped or how they should be behaving, they're human at the end of the day, and they're always going to fall short of that expectation of what you give upon them. And that's just a learning experience, so that not everyone can be there for you. But sometimes if they're not there for you at all, is it a friend or is it an acquaintance or is it just someone that you shared history with, and now it's moving towards forming new friendships, which means forming friendships with people that you don't know, which would technically be strangers. And I think it's also important to know the difference between forming relationships with strangers and forming relationships with predators. One will offer you kindness, one will probably offer you a candy and a white van sort of thing. One will mislead you and one will help you on your journey, I guess. But I think in all things, when we are going on a trauma recovery, we're recovering parts of ourselves, but also parts of what we value within ourselves and the friendships that we want to have. Do we want to be in environments that devalue us? Do we want environments that even are aware of our existence? Or do we want environments that do encourage us to be the people that we want to be? But with all forms of therapy, with all forms of doing something that we want in our life, means stepping into that discomfort zone, which means that in relearning and regrowing is reconnecting that ability to connect to others and building that confidence. It's like that muscle memory in a way of how to actually develop one's connections with others. So where you might have had an environment where if you said or did the wrong thing, you were seen as a failure and seen as something less. And I guess the difference between someone that is understanding and someone that will just like demean sort of thing is that difference between someone that you want to form a connection to and someone that is just very critical of your ability to learn and grow. So you probably want people that also value you for you rather than devalue you for your mistakes of becoming you. And you can have a lot of friends, but whether those friends actually value you or you don't value them behind their back, then it's not a friendship, it's just convenience. It's just something there to be used in a way, which is kind of a useless form of connection. It's vain, it's a facade once again. And once that mask drops, then I guess it's who's around that person that you start to see the other side of it. So yeah, I think with all forms of friendship, similar to love, similar to kindness, we're coming from places where this was the wound that caused the trauma. We wanted to love and trust our caregivers. We wanted to form connections with that, but there was a disconnection and we got wounded by that, and we're carrying that wound. And as we heal, we want to form a better connection with ourselves and better connection with others, but it's also understanding the environment of what we learnt within is also how we're going to treat ourselves with. And if we didn't have the best teachers, if we didn't have the best examples of what a healthy friendship is, of what a healthy connection is, then it's through no fault of our own that we're probably going to be forming faulty connections because we're doing it with faulty teaching sort of thing. It's like, it's very hard for me to speak another language if I don't learn how to speak it sort of thing. So it's learning how to speak to myself a little bit better and also how to communicate with other people rather than demeaning myself or having someone telling me that my sense of worth is worthless because I don't have X amount of friends. Yeah, just a little chat on that. I'm Dion from Eflowtion Support Services, wellness support specialist that helps you with EFT tapping, NDIS support work, and also to come the potato breathing. So a few changes this year, and one thing that hasn't changed is the pattern of planes going over. But if you put yourself in an environment where it's underneath the air traffic way, then it's probably going to happen. So, till next time, I'm Dion from Eflowtion Support Services. Bye for now.